Hello, everybody.
Hi.
It's going to make us do it this way. That's what we didn't know. We are live, and we just wanted to do a Wednesday update normally. What we're doing is I'm trying to speak to our church, and today my wife is joining us. For those of you who may not know, this is Emily, and we were having a conversation around our house the other day just about how all that's going on has affected us. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to let her set it up a little bit more of just kind of the dynamic of what we wanted to kind of talk with you about today.
Yeah, so last week we were having some conversations about what it's like to live in close quarters. And even though we all, I think slowly we all knew we were going to be kind of in this situation, the stay in place orders. But as Daniel was making some kind of big decisions and we were dealing with those and our own personalities, we had a couple rough days together. And so I said, honestly, this is probably the thing that we should talk about because this is, I think, pretty relevant to everybody right now. So that's what we thought we'd do.
Yeah, so we just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about how to handle the dynamic, because when crisis happens, people can tend to run to their dark places. And in the dark places, when you're the only person going through crisis, it's actually easier to get out. But when it seems like many are going through it, it's kind of hard to sometimes help everyone adjust at the same time. And even more so when the whole house is feeling it. And so let's just kind of talk about some of the things that we recognized in both of our lives. For me, my dark place is when I run to plans. So when things, some of you may have heard me say that a few times. I like a plan and a backup plan and a backup. I can't tell how many times have you heard that in 21 years?
Plans aren't really a dark place all the time. But
no, but it's an escape trying to find stability in an unstable world, seemingly. And so I recognize that sometimes can be a fault. And so when I was coming home and making plans, and the plans were changing, and okay, family, here's the next plan. Emily, here's the next plan. Here's the next plan. Can you see how that might get on your family's nerves a bit? Or the staff's nerves a bit, or anybody's nerves a bit. And so what I had to realize is what I was really looking for was security and stability. Mm-hmm. And instead of leaning into God, I was going to that mentality. And then my family was kind of getting some negative tones from that. But my wife and my kids actually respond very differently. We're not going to really address them right now as much, but why don't you kind of explain your dark place?
Yeah, so especially with what we dealt with last week, and again, everybody's personality is different, so we know that. We're just sharing with you kind of what we have a tendency to do. And so my dark place is anger, which may sound weird. A lot of people who are closer to me in friendship have heard me share this before, but I often run to anger, which in the past few years, the Lord has really been convicting me and transforming me in that and helping me to recognize what it is that actually is the root of my anger. It's not, anger is a sin. Acting in anger is a sin. But what is the root? And for me, it's just the feeling. A lot of times, if I'm sad, I will react in anger. If I feel out of control, I will react in anger. But then anger definitely spills over into every relationship. And so in our home, what was happening last week with us is Daniel was feeling the pressure and the ownership to make plans, and I was giving helpful suggestions. And then
they were helpful.
I mean, yes, but also realizing that they were in some ways adding pressure. And I think we just weren't communicating as a family. And so I think our heart in this is, I'm sure other families are experiencing similar things. Not that your personalities are the same as ours, but when we don't feel like our spouse is listening or understanding.
Or whether it's a roommate, whoever you're living with.
Yeah.
And so one of the first things that we would encourage people to do is to recognize, what is your dark place? What does that look like? What is the sin you run to? A lot of times that can be tracked through the Enneagram or, all those things. But recognizing that when you're starting to go there and to be self-aware of that enough to then not just try to fix that, but then take it to the foot of the cross and to shine the gospel in that. So when you recognize your own dark place, that's one thing. But now I want to let Emily talk a little bit about the struggle that is for walking the rest of the people who live in the house with you and realizing that they don't always respond the way you do.
Right. Yeah. And I think one thing that we talked about this week is how some of us are external processors and some of us are internal processors, but we all kind of have this need to be understood, or to feel like that at some level people understand how we feel or our perspective. And so for me, especially with our kids, we're in a season of life where our kids are very aware of everything that's going on outside and in culture and in the world right now. They process that differently, but I also have to be very careful because I tend towards perfectionism and feeling like when they have a problem, I need to help.
We both do that.
Yeah, that we need to help them figure out how to fix it. Okay, here's what Jesus says about this problem, which is very important. I'm not minimizing the importance of that, but just like we want to be heard and we want to be understood, I think sometimes your kids may be processing that at home, and sometimes we just need to back up and let them
to understand how they're processing.
Yeah, let them process it out, because my tendency is to jump in immediately and say, this is how you need to fix this. This is what, and I think there is that moment for discipleship, and we've kind of implemented that a little bit more, realizing what may be coming the next few weeks in our home as a way to talk about the gospel and talk about what the Lord wants to teach all of us in this, but also give them other spaces where they can just share how they feel.
And I think one of them, for this particular, we were having a really good conversation, and then he was done. And we weren't done.
We felt like we still had
we have so much wisdom to offer you, and
Yes.
sit down
Yeah.
and to recognize that's not helpful to hit helpful. I combine those two
helpful
words.
in the moment. Yeah.
Helpful in the moment, or healthy to where he was, and allowing them to process at their own pace. And so part of this is not just processing, it's kind of creating a safe space for people. I know that word's been used a lot in bad ways, but to create a safe space for people to really want to come to the people in their house, the people that they should be able to process things with, and say, okay, when I'm ready, and then how do you navigate sometimes when they just are, because there are the people who are like, I'm going to stick my head in the ground
sand.
and not
Pretend this is all not happening.
wake me up in 2021, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the balance of that is saying, no, we are going to talk about it, but it doesn't always have to be on my terms.
Right.
And so creating that space where they can talk about it, whether that's around the dinner table, or let them know it's coming ahead of time. Hey guys, tonight we're going to talk about this at dinner, and we just kind of want you to share what's one thing going through your head, and not judging.
Yeah, and I think I don't know how much time we have left. I don't want to, but at the same time, I really feel like, it personally, it's not, I'm kind of a homebody. It doesn't bother me to be at home, but I know that some people are not knit together that way. And so some of the things that cause a lot of frustration for some people don't necessarily for me, but at the same time, I have to realize, like, my kids are feeling a little stir crazy. And also, one other thing that I think we've talked about is creating some sort of time. I don't want to look back on this.
Intentionality.
Like, I think that the Lord is working through all of this, and right now I think it all feels very surreal, and I see specific places where I know the Lord is moving, but at the same time I think all of us feel like, okay, God, show us in moments where we feel fragile, like where are you moving, and what do you have to say through all that's happening around us? And so I just really want to be prayerful. That's what I hope that, and I hope I'm teaching my kids, is that the most important thing we can do right now is just pray for what's happening, pray for the people around us. And so, like, at night we've been trying to pray as a family, and I found that that's a better time to speak the truth that we want to speak while our kids are sharing, but yet sometimes it's easy to make them feel like we're disappointed in the way that they're feeling or whatever. And so at night we've just been really trying to use that as a time to make them more aware of all the needs around us and all the things that people are facing. And
I kind of just want to encourage a lot of parents out there, whether you're a single mom or whether you're even doing this with your roommates because you're in college or whatever it is, don't carry the burden of perfection. Mm-hmm. And I think if anything, I kind of want you to hear that Daniel and Emily don't always do this perfect.
We want to.
We want to.
That's our problem.
And striving for holiness is good.
Yeah.
But when you don't, you get up and you go, this should be a place of unconditional love. And we apologize to our boys frequently, and I apologize to her.
And that was our moment last week. Like, we had to make some big apologies to each other because we realized we were
not in a healthy place.
Yeah, and these are the most important people in our lives. The people under this roof, right? And yours too. And so, I don't know. It's not going to be beautiful every day. We know that. We don't have like illusions about that.
But I think there is a light, and the ultimate light that we're trying to find is not a self-help guru. We're not into that. It's the gospel. And the fact that, like we're teaching in Philippians on Sunday mornings, and we're trying to help people see that God is not surprised by those 6 things that are on our fridge right now as we speak that I shared last week, that God does know our future, and that's good. And as we trust in all of that, he's going to do it. So as you're creating a space, recognize that when you start to go to a kind of a darker space and try to shine the light of the gospel by memorizing a scripture verse, then creating space for other people in your house to kind of go through this process as they would like to, and then really just try to think creatively, how can we use this every moment to point to Jesus? And that's kind of our encouragement for you all today. And so I'm going to let Emily close.
One more thing. So I did mention earlier that we realize we're in a very specific season of life with the age of our kids, but you are all in different. Some of you don't have kids at home. That's fine. But one helpful thing that some friends of mine suggested to me a while ago, and it's going to be on the families card, the For Families card on the info hub.
YourCalvary.info.
Yeah, YourCalvary.info. There's a podcast called Wire Talk, and if you are struggling with how to talk to your kids about this, it very simply and specifically addresses kids' different personalities and how they process different things and how they process anxiety or stress and all that information is going to be on there. And I think it's just really practical and helpful. Karen Stubbs is a believer, and so it's super grounded, but super practical. And so that's just a good resource if you have kids with very different personalities, something you can refer to later. I hope it's helpful.
And that's at YourCalvary.info. And just know that also you can reach out to the staff. You can reach out to us any way that we can help. We're all in this together. And if this is encouraging to you, I just encourage you to share it with someone who may need to hear it. But as I close, I want to read some verses in Philippians, which is how you really shine the light of the gospel, which is what we're teaching out of on Sunday morning. And here's what it says in Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any moral excellence, if there is anything praiseworthy, dwell on these things. Do what you have learned and perceived and heard from me and seen in me, and the God of peace will be with you. Guys, we love you. We're praying for you, and it's an honor to be in this life with you. So we're going to sign off. Anything else you want to say?
Nope.
Bye.
Bye.